The Great Council chamber buzzed with quiet conversations. Representatives from 47 different worlds sat in their assigned seats waiting for the session to begin. Ambassador Hyunwoo adjusted his simple black suit and checked his notes one last time. Around him, aliens of every shape and color prepared for another day of galactic politics. The Vextari delegate clicked her mandibles nervously. Her insect-like eyes kept darting toward the human section. She whispered to her aide in their clicking language, but her words carried across the chamber. Other delegates noticed and began their own quiet discussions. "The humans look so calm," said the Kethmore representative, his scaled head turning toward Hyunwoo. "How do they always stay so relaxed?" Captain So-Young Park sat behind Hyunwoo in the military observer section. She wore her dress uniform with quiet pride. Her presence was supposed to be ceremonial, but every alien in the room knew better. They had all heard the stories. Commander Dongmin Lee stood near the chamber entrance with two other human security officers. They looked like any other diplomatic guards, but the way other species' security teams gave them space told a different story. Even the warrior races seemed nervous around them. The session chairman, a tall blue-skinned Altarian, called for order. "Today we discuss trade route security in the Outer Rim sectors," he announced. "Several cargo vessels have reported pirate activity near the Kepler system." The discussion began normally. Trade representatives talked about shipping costs and insurance rates. Military advisors shared patrol schedules and fleet positions. But soon, as always happened in these meetings, the conversation shifted to human military capabilities. "Perhaps we should ask the humans to patrol that sector," suggested the Vextari delegate. Her voice carried a tremor that she tried to hide. "Their ships are very effective." Hyunwoo noticed the way she said effective. It was the same tone others used when they talked about natural disasters or unstoppable forces. He had heard it many times before. "The human patrol ships are quite small," commented the representative from Zephyr Prime. His people were known for building massive war vessels. "How do they achieve such results with so few resources?" Captain So-Young shifted in her seat. She had commanded one of those small patrol ships before her current assignment. The ship had a crew of 12 and was considered a light cruiser by human standards, but she had seen entire alien fleets change course to avoid even a single human patrol. "I heard about an incident near Vextari space last month," said the insectoid delegate, her mandibles clicking faster now. "3 of our destroyers encountered a human patrol ship." Just one ship. The chamber grew quiet. Everyone knew this story, but they wanted to hear it again. "The human ship did not fire any weapons," she continued. "The captain simply broadcast their tactical analysis of our ship's weaknesses and suggested we reconsider our aggressive posture. Our commanders reviewed the analysis and immediately surrendered." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Kethmore delegate leaned forward. What kind of analysis could cause trained warriors to surrender without a fight? The Vextari representative looked uncomfortable. "The humans had identified 17 different ways to disable our ships using our own systems against us. They explained how they could turn our defensive shields into weapons, how they could override our navigation computers, and how they could cause our life support to fail in exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. But they did not actually do any of these things?" asked the chairman. "No, they just explained how they could do them in detail, with precise timing estimates." The Vextari delegate's voice grew smaller. "Our ship captains decided that surrender was preferable to testing the humans' claims." Commander Dongmin tried not to smile. He remembered reading that incident report. Lieutenant Kim had been proud of resolving the situation without violence. The tactical analysis had taken her about 15 minutes to complete. She had considered it a routine exercise. "This is why we fear the human military," said the representative from the ocean world of Aquaria. "They fight wars in ways we cannot understand. They turn our strengths into weaknesses without even trying." Hyunwoo finally spoke up. "The Galactic Council Charter requires all member species to resolve conflicts peacefully when possible. Our military forces simply follow that principle." "Peacefully?" The Kethmore delegate's scales rippled with agitation. "Your peaceful solutions terrify entire fleets into submission." "We prefer to avoid unnecessary casualties," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "Both ours and theirs." The conversation continued for another hour. Representatives shared more stories about encounters with human forces. Each tale was more unsettling than the last. Humans who could predict enemy movements with impossible accuracy. Human soldiers who treated deadly combat situations like routine training exercises. Human commanders who solved complex military problems while drinking coffee and making small talk. As the session wound down, the representative from the warrior planet Corval asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. Ambassador Hyunwoo, we have all heard these stories about your regular military forces. But we also hear rumors about something called special forces. What makes them different from your already formidable standard troops? The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien eye focused on the human ambassador. Hyunwoo considered his words carefully. This was not the first time someone had asked this question, and his answer was always the same. I am not qualified to discuss military operations in detail, he said with diplomatic precision, but I can say that different situations require different approaches. Our special forces handle situations that require specialized skills. Specialized beyond what we have already witnessed. The Corval representative's voice carried a note of disbelief mixed with worry. Every military organization has specialists, Hyunwoo replied. I am sure your own forces do as well. The aliens exchanged glances. Their specialists were elite warriors, master tacticians, and highly trained soldiers. But if human regulars were already beyond their understanding, what could human specialists possibly be like? Before anyone could ask another question, an urgent alarm sounded throughout the chamber. The chairman's aide rushed to his side with a communication device. After a brief conversation, the chairman stood up with a grave expression. I have just received a distress signal from research station Kepler-47, he announced. The station has been taken by pirates. They are holding over 200 researchers from 12 different species as hostages. The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Research station Kepler-47 was one of the most important scientific facilities in the galaxy. The loss of those researchers would be devastating to multiple species advancement programs. The pirates are demanding that we send our best to negotiate with them, the chairman continued. They claim to have enough firepower to destroy the station if we attempt a military rescue. Every delegate turned to look at the human section. They all knew who the council would ask for help. They also knew that this might be their chance to finally see what human best really meant. Hyunwoo stood up slowly. The human delegation will need to consult with our military command before we can respond to this request. As he walked toward the exit, followed by Captain So-young and Commander Dong-min, the chamber remained silent. The aliens watched them leave with a mixture of hope and fear. Soon, they would learn whether the rumors about human special forces were true. The doors closed behind the humans, leaving the aliens to wonder what they had just set in motion. The human diplomatic quarter was much quieter than the main council chambers. Ambassador Hyunwoo walked through the simple corridors toward the strategy room, followed by Captain So-young and Commander Dong-min. The walls were plain white with no decorations, which always made visiting aliens uncomfortable. Humans preferred function over appearance. In the strategy room, a large screen showed the layout of research station Kepler-47. The station was massive, with multiple research labs, living quarters, and docking bays. Red markers indicated where the pirates had placed their guards and defensive positions. How many hostiles are we looking at? Asked Captain So-young as she studied the display. Commander Dong-min checked his tablet. Intelligence estimates between 40 and 60 pirates. They have control of the main computer systems and life support. The hostages are being held in 3 separate sections. Ambassador Hyunwoo reviewed the council's formal request on his own device. They want us to send our best people to handle this situation. The other species are expecting us to deploy special forces. Are we going to? Asked So-young. Hyunwoo shook his head. This is a standard hostage situation. We will send a regular peacekeeping team. The door opened and 4 humans entered the room. They wore simple gray uniforms with minimal rank insignia. To an outside observer, they looked like maintenance workers or office staff. But these were the team members who would handle the crisis. Lieutenant Jae-hoon Choi was 28 years old and had been leading peacekeeping operations for 6 years. He was average height with dark hair and calm eyes. Nothing about his appearance suggested he was capable of the things aliens whispered about human soldiers. Sergeant Min-ah Kim handled communications and intelligence. She was smaller than Jae-hoon and spoke with a soft voice. Her specialty was understanding how different species thought and communicated. She could predict enemy behavior patterns with remarkable accuracy. Corporal Tae Young-han was the team's technical specialist. He understood explosives, electronics, and mechanical systems. His hobby was solving puzzles, and he treated every mission like a complex problem that needed a creative solution. Private First Class Sun Hee-yoon was the team's medic and psychology specialist. She was the youngest member, but had studied the mental and emotional patterns of over 30 different species. She could read stress levels and predict breaking points with scientific precision. "What do we know about the pirates?" asked Jae-hoon as he took a seat at the conference table. Commander Dong-min pulled up profiles on the screen. They call themselves the Black Star Consortium, led by someone called Vorthak the Render. They have been operating in the Outer Rim for about 3 years. "Species composition?" asked Minna. "Mixed group, mostly Kethmore and Vextari with some others. They prefer quick raids on isolated targets. This is their first major hostage operation." Sun Hee studied the psychological profiles. "Vorthak has a reputation for brutality, but he is also practical. He will negotiate if he thinks he can get what he wants without a fight." "What are they demanding?" asked Tae-young. "Safe passage to neutral space and a payment of 10 million credits," replied Dong-min. "Standard ransom demands. But they specifically asked for the Council's best to handle negotiations." Jae-hoon nodded thoughtfully. "They want to see who shows up, probably hoping to capture some high-value prisoners for additional leverage." The team spent the next hour reviewing station blueprints and security systems. They discussed approach vectors, communication protocols, and contingency plans. Their conversation was casual and matter-of-fact, as if they were planning a routine inspection rather than a life-or-death rescue operation. Outside the strategy room, a group of alien military observers had been permitted to monitor the human response. They watched through a one-way window, trying to understand what they were seeing. "They are so calm," whispered the Vexitari military attaché. "How can they be so relaxed about such a dangerous situation?" The Kethmore general beside her adjusted his scales nervously. "Look at their equipment list. No heavy weapons. No assault armor. They are planning to go in with basic gear. Either they are supremely confident or they do not understand the danger," said the Aquarian admiral. "I cannot decide which possibility is more disturbing." Inside the room, the human team was finishing their preparations. Jae-hoon reviewed the final checklist while his team members gathered their equipment. "Everything fit into 4 small bags that could be carried by hand. Are we ready?" asked Ambassador Hyunwoo. "Yes, sir," replied Jae-hoon. "We should be able to resolve this within 6 hours of arrival." The alien observers exchanged worried looks. 6 hours seemed impossibly fast for such a complex operation. "What about backup?" asked the Kethmore general, speaking through the intercom. "Should we not send additional forces in case something goes wrong?" Jae-hoon looked toward the observation window. "Thank you for the offer, but additional forces might complicate the situation. We prefer to keep things simple." "Simple?" The Vextari attaché's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You call this simple?" "It is a straightforward negotiation with some technical challenges," replied Minna. "We have handled similar situations many times before." The aliens fell silent. They had read the reports of human similar situations. Entire pirate fleets had surrendered. Terrorist organizations had disbanded. Military coups had been resolved with phone calls. If this was routine for humans, what did their difficult operations look like? Tae-young finished checking his equipment bag. "The station's security systems are fairly standard. If we need to disable them, it should not take more than 20 minutes. "Disable them how?" asked the Aquarian admiral. "Basic electronic warfare techniques," Tae-young replied casually. "Turn their own systems against them. Make them think their equipment is malfunctioning." Standard stuff. The alien observers felt a chill. What humans called standard stuff was beyond the capabilities of most species' elite forces. Sun Hee reviewed her medical supplies. "I have treatments for 12 different species' medical needs, plus psychological intervention protocols for stress and trauma. The hostages should be fine once we get them out." "You are confident you will get them out?" asked the Kethmore general. "Of course," replied Sun Hee with genuine surprise. "Why would we not be able to get them out?" The aliens looked at each other with growing unease. The humans were not boasting or trying to sound impressive. They genuinely seemed to believe that this impossible rescue mission was just another day at work. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood up. "The Council will be informed that we are sending a peacekeeping team to resolve the situation. We expect to have a solution within 12 hours. As the human team prepared to leave, the alien observers remained at the window. They watched the 4 humans walk down the corridor, carrying their small equipment bags and chatting quietly among themselves. "Those 4 people are going to face 60 armed pirates," said the Vextari attaché, "and they look like they are going to an office meeting," added the Kethmore general. "If these are regular human peacekeepers," said the Aquarian admiral slowly, "what exactly are their special forces like?" None of them had an answer to that question. But as they watched the human transport ship launch toward the crisis zone, they all had the same terrible thought. Maybe they were about to find out. The ship disappeared into space, carrying 4 humans toward what should have been an impossible mission. Behind them, the alien observers began to understand that everything they thought they knew about human military capabilities might be completely wrong. And if they were wrong about the regular forces, what did that mean for the legends about special forces? Research Station Kepler-47 drifted in the darkness of space, its lights flickering under pirate control. Inside the main command center, Vorthak the Render paced between rows of monitoring stations. His scaled hide showed the scars of dozens of battles, and his reputation for cruelty was known throughout the Outer Rim. "How long until the Council responds?" he growled at his second-in-command. Sub-Commander Krex checked the communication board. "Our demands were sent 6 hours ago. They should be assembling their response team now." Vorthak's eyes glowed with satisfaction. "Good, we chose our target well. Researchers from 12 different species. No single government can risk a military assault that might kill their own people." Around the command center, 43 pirates from various species maintained their positions. They had taken the station easily, overwhelming the small security force with superior numbers and firepower. The hostages were secured in 3 separate sections, making rescue attempts nearly impossible. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from an approaching vessel," announced the communications operator. "Already?" Vorthak's scales rippled with surprise. "Show me." The main screen displayed a small transport ship moving toward the station. It was barely larger than a shuttle and showed no weapon signatures. No escort vessels accompanied it. "Is this some kind of joke?" asked Krex. "One tiny ship?" "Scan it for troops," ordered Vorthak. "How many soldiers are they bringing?" The operator worked his controls for several minutes. "Sir, I'm detecting 4 life signs." "All human?" Vorthak stared at the screen in disbelief. "4 humans? The Council sent 4 humans to face us?" "Perhaps it is a negotiation team," suggested Krex. "Maybe they plan to offer us better terms." "Or it is a scouting party for a larger force," said Vorthak. "Keep scanning for additional ships." For the next hour they monitored space around the station. No other vessels appeared. The small human ship approached slowly and requested permission to dock. "This has to be a trick," muttered Krex. "No military force would send only 4 people against our entire organization." Vorthak considered his options. His intelligence network had told him that humans were dangerous, but surely not so dangerous that 4 of them could threaten his entire operation. "Let them dock, but keep weapons trained on their ship. If this is some kind of trap, we will destroy them immediately." The human ship docked at the station's main bay. Internal sensors showed 4 humans in simple uniforms walking through the airlock. They carried no visible weapons and moved with calm, unhurried steps. "Bring them to me," ordered Vorthak. "I want to see what the Council thinks these 4 humans can accomplish." Lieutenant Jae-hoon walked through the station corridors with his team, escorted by 6 heavily armed pirates. The pirates kept their weapons ready, but the humans seemed completely relaxed. They looked around with mild curiosity, as if they were tourists on a sightseeing trip. "Nice station," commented Tae-young as they passed a research laboratory. "The life support systems look fairly modern." "The security setup is interesting too," added Mina. "They have good coverage of the main areas." The pirates exchanged nervous glances. These humans were evaluating the station's systems like they were planning to buy it, not rescue hostages from it. In the command center, Vorthak waited with 20 of his best fighters. When the humans entered, he expected to see fear or at least caution. Instead, the lead human looked around the room with professional interest and nodded politely. "You must be Vorthak," said Jae-hoon. "I am Lieutenant Choi. We are here to discuss the situation." "Discuss?" Vorthak's voice carried a threatening rumble. "You are here to meet my demands or watch me start killing hostages." "That seems unnecessarily complicated," replied Jae-hoon calmly. We would prefer to find a solution that works for everyone. Sub-Commander Krex stepped forward. You are outnumbered more than 10 to 1. What kind of solution do you think you can offer? Sergeant Minna smiled pleasantly. Well, we have identified several options. Would you like to hear them? Before anyone could respond, she began speaking in a conversational tone. Option 1. You release the hostages and surrender peacefully. We help you negotiate reduced sentences with the Council.
Everyone lives. The pirates laughed, but their laughter died as she continued. Option 2. You refuse to surrender, so we disable your ship's engines and life support systems.
You are trapped here until a Council fleet arrives. Some of you might survive the wait. You have 4 people, snarled Vorthak. How do you plan to disable anything? Corporal Tae-young spoke up helpfully. Your ship's main power coupling has a design flaw. If we overload the secondary plasma conduits, your entire electrical system will cascade failure in approximately 12 minutes. Would you like me to explain the technical details? The pirates looked confused and worried. How could these humans know so much about their ship's systems? Option 3, continued Minna, is that you try to fight us. That would be unfortunate for several reasons. Private Sunhee pulled out a small tablet and began reading from it. Vorthak, you have anger management issues related to childhood trauma on your homeworld. You use violence to compensate for feelings of inadequacy. Sub-Commander Krex, you joined this pirate group after being dishonorably discharged from the Kethmore Navy for cowardice. You follow Vorthak because you need someone else to make decisions for you. Both pirates stared at her in shock. She continued reading with clinical detachment. Gunner Thex, you are addicted to Vextari stimulants and your hands shake when you are stressed. Communications Operator Zill, you send money to your family and tell them you work as a cargo hauler. They do not know you are a criminal. Around the room, pirates began looking uncomfortable as Sunhee read personal details about each of them. Information they had never told anyone. Secrets they thought were hidden. How do you know all this? Whispered Krex. We do our research, replied Jae-hoon matter-of-factly. It helps us understand who we are dealing with. Vorthak tried to regain control of the situation. Your research will not stop bullets. You are still outnumbered. That is true, agreed Jae-hoon. But numbers are not everything. Minna, what is our tactical assessment? Minna pulled out her own tablet. Your defensive positions have 7 critical weaknesses. Your escape routes can be blocked in 4 different ways. Your communication system can be jammed or turned against you. Your weapons are older models with known vulnerabilities. You are bluffing, said Vorthak, but his voice lacked conviction. Would you like a demonstration? Asked Tae-young. He touched a control on his wrist device. Suddenly, all the lights in the command center began flashing in a complex pattern. Alarms started beeping. Computer screens showed error messages in languages the pirates could not read. What did you do? Shouted Krex. I accessed your environmental controls, explained Tae-young calmly. I could turn off your gravity, shut down your air recycling, or lock all the doors. But I will not, because that would be mean. The flashing lights stopped. Everything returned to normal. But the pirates now understood that the humans had been inside their systems the entire time. This is impossible, muttered Vorthak. You just arrived. How did you get into our computer network so quickly? We started working on it during the approach flight, replied Minna. Your security protocols are fairly standard. It only took about 20 minutes to map your entire system. Sunhee looked up from her tablet. Vorthak, your stress indicators suggest you are approaching a psychological breaking point. Your crew is losing confidence in your leadership. If you continue this confrontation, several of your people will mutiny within the next hour. The pirate captain looked around the room. His crew members were indeed looking nervous and uncertain. Some were backing toward the exits. I think we should move to option 1, suggested Jae-hoon. It really is the best choice for everyone involved. Vorthak stared at the 4 humans. They had not raised their voices, drawn weapons, or made threats. But somehow they had completely dismantled his operation without even trying. His ship was compromised. His crew was demoralized. His plans were in ruins. If you are just regular military, he asked quietly, what are your special forces like? The humans exchanged glances. Lieutenant Jae-hoon considered the question seriously. Special forces handle different types of missions, he replied. We are peacekeepers. They are specialists. Something in his tone made every pirate in the room shiver with fear. Suddenly, surrender seemed like the most intelligent choice they had ever made. 20 minutes later, the hostages were free and the pirates were in custody. As they were led away, Vorthak could not stop thinking about that simple word. Specialists. If regular humans could do this, what could their specialists accomplish? News of the bloodless rescue spread across the galaxy faster than light travel. In military headquarters, intelligence offices, and government buildings throughout known space, alien leaders tried to understand what had happened at Research Station Kepler-47. On the crystalline world of Zephyros, military analyst Kexlan reviewed the tactical footage for the 15th time. Her diamond-like body reflected, the light from multiple screens showing different angles of the human operation. Run the docking sequence again, she commanded her. The screen showed the small human transport approaching the station, with no escort vessels, no weapons visible, and only 4 life signs aboard. By every military doctrine Kexlan knew, this should have been a suicide mission. What am I missing? She muttered, her crystalline voice chiming softly. 4 beings against 60 armed hostiles. No backup plan, no heavy weapons, no reinforcements standing by. Her assistant, a younger crystal being named Hextal, manipulated the controls. Perhaps the humans have weapons we cannot detect. I have analyzed every spectrum. There are no hidden weapon signatures, no unusual energy readings. They brought standard equipment and nothing else. The footage showed the humans walking calmly through the station, surrounded by heavily armed pirates. They looked like office workers on a routine visit, not soldiers entering a combat zone. Look at their biometric readings, said Kexlan, pointing to a side screen. Heart rate's normal. Stress hormones at baseline levels. They show no signs of fear or anxiety. Maybe humans do not feel fear? Impossible. Fear is a survival mechanism. Every intelligent species experiences fear. Kexlan paused the footage on a close-up of Lieutenant Jehoon's face, but they show no signs of it. Either they are supreme masters of emotional control, or they genuinely do not consider this situation dangerous. On the aquatic world of Thalassa, Intelligence Officer Murthon floated in his command pool, surrounded by holographic displays. His tentacles moved through the water as he studied psychological profiles of the human rescue team. These are not elite warriors, he observed to his staff. Lieutenant Choi has 6 years of experience. Sergeant Kim specialized in communications. Corporal Han is a technical expert. Private Yoon is a medic. Their training records show nothing unusual, agreed his aide, Welfin. Standard peacekeeping academy, normal advancement, routine assignments. Yet they accomplished something our best special forces teams would consider impossible. Murthon's color changed to deep blue, indicating deep thought. How do regular humans achieve results that our elites cannot match? The psychological profiles showed normal personality patterns. No signs of enhanced conditioning or mental modification. These were ordinary humans by their own species' standards. Perhaps their entire military is what we would consider elite, suggested Welfin. That is what worries me, replied Murthon. If these are their regular forces, what are their actual elites capable of? On the warrior world of Corval, War Chief Groktar slammed his massive fist on the conference table. His lieutenants flinched at the sound, but they had learned to expect such outbursts when discussing human military capabilities. Explain to me again how 4 soft-looking primates defeated 60 hardened raiders without firing a shot, he roared. Lieutenant Corvin, the intelligence officer, consulted his reports nervously. According to the pirate prisoners, the humans simply talked them into surrendering. Talked them into it? They demonstrated superior knowledge of the pirates' equipment, personal histories, and psychological weaknesses. The pirates concluded that resistance was futile. Groktar's eyes blazed with frustration. In my culture, warriors prove their strength through combat. How do these humans prove anything by talking? Perhaps, Mir, said Corvin carefully. Their strength is so obvious that they do not need to prove it. The war chief considered this possibility. In Corval society, only the most powerful warriors could afford to be gentle. Lesser fighters had to constantly demonstrate their abilities. Could it be that humans were so dangerous that they did not need to show their weapons? Have we received responses to our request for joint training exercises? Asked Groktar. Yes, sir. The humans have agreed to limited cooperation. Colonel Jinwoo Park will oversee the program. Within weeks, military representatives from dozens of species arrived at human training facilities. They came as observers, ostensibly to learn about cooperation and tactics. In reality, they wanted to understand how human forces achieved such impossible results. The Corville delegation watched human soldiers conduct basic training exercises. The humans practiced scenarios where half their team was killed in the first few minutes. They trained to continue fighting while wounded. They rehearsed missions where everything went wrong. "This is horrible," whispered Observer Tekmar to his companion. "They train their soldiers to expect failure and death." "Look how they adapt," replied Commander Vorlex. "When their plan fails, they immediately create a new one. When their equipment breaks, they find alternatives. When their comrades fall, they continue the mission." The human instructors treated these devastating scenarios as normal training. They critiqued performance casually, discussing different ways to handle casualties and equipment failures, like they were talking about the weather. The Vextari observation team was equally disturbed by what they witnessed. Human tactical manuals contained strategies that the insectoid species considered advanced warfare techniques. According to this manual, clicked Observer Jexlin, human soldiers learn these techniques in basic training. What we teach to our special forces, they teach to everyone. Look at this section on psychological warfare, added intelligence specialist Kextor. They study the mental patterns of every known species. Every human soldier carries psychological profiles of potential enemies. The manual section on basic interrogation techniques described methods that most species reserved for elite intelligence operatives. The humans taught these skills to regular troops as standard curriculum. During a joint exercise simulation, the alien observers watched human forces adapt to changing conditions with frightening efficiency. When their original plan was countered, they shifted to backup strategies instantly. When those failed, they improvised new approaches without missing a beat. Sergeant Ji-hoon Song noticed the aliens watching with obvious unease. During a break, the Corville commander approached him. "Sergeant Song, we are curious about your Special Forces training. How does it differ from what we have observed?" Ji-hoon looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Special Forces? We all have basically the same foundation training. Special Forces just focus on specific mission types." "Specific how?" "Well, hostage rescue teams train for close-quarters operations. Deep reconnaissance units learn stealth and survival. Counterintelligence specialists study deception and infiltration. Different jobs need different skills." The alien commander felt a chill. "But the basic capabilities are the same?" "Sure, we all learn the same fundamentals. Tactics, psychology, technology, adaptation. Special Forces just apply those skills to specialized situations." That night, the alien observers held an emergency meeting. Representatives from 12 species gathered to discuss what they had learned. "The humans do not have elite forces in the way we understand the concept," reported the Vexistari observer. "They have specialists who focus on different types of missions. Their basic training covers skills that our most advanced warriors spend years learning," added the Corville commander. "Every human soldier is trained to function independently, adapt to changing conditions, and continue fighting under impossible circumstances," said the Aquarian representative. The crystalline delegate, Kexelin, synthesized their findings. "We have been asking the wrong question. We wanted to know what makes their special forces special. But the real question is what makes their regular forces so formidable." "And what is the answer?" asked the others. Kexelin's crystal body flickered with uncertain light. "I think their regular forces are what we would consider elite troops, which means their special forces are something beyond our current understanding." The meeting ended with more questions than answers. The alien observers filed their reports, but none of them felt ready to face the implications of what they had discovered. If human peacekeepers could defeat 60 pirates without firing a shot, and if those peacekeepers were considered ordinary by human standards, then what were human special forces actually capable of? Some questions they were beginning to realize might be better left unanswered. But across the galaxy, military planners were already working on scenarios that might require finding out. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's history. Representatives from every member species filled the great chamber, their faces showing fear and desperation. Above them, holographic displays showed the devastating progress of an ancient artificial intelligence that had awakened in the galactic core. Ambassador Hyunwoo studied the tactical reports with growing concern. In just 6 weeks, the AI had destroyed the homeworlds of 3 species and was systematically working its way outward. Combined fleets from 7 different civilizations had engaged the entity and been utterly defeated. The Kethmore 7th Fleet lasted 18 minutes, reported Admiral Zekmore, his scales pale with shock. Our most powerful warships could not even damage its defensive systems. The Vextari swarm tactics failed completely, added General Thexerin, her mandibles clicking nervously. It anticipated every maneuver and countered our strategies before we could implement them. Chairman Altkaran called for order as panicked voices filled the chamber. The entity is currently targeting the Corval system. Our projections show it will reach the core worlds within 6 months. War Chief Groktar stood up, his massive frame trembling with barely controlled emotion. Our finest warriors could not even slow this thing down. How can we possibly stop it? All eyes turned to the human delegation. After weeks of witnessing human military capabilities, the Council had reached an inevitable conclusion. If anyone could face this impossible threat, it would be humanity's legendary special forces. Ambassador Hyunwoo, said the chairman formally. The Galactic Council formally requests that humanity deploy its special forces to engage this threat. The chamber fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Finally, they would see what human special forces were truly capable of. Hyunwoo stood slowly and looked around the chamber. After weeks of rumors, speculation, and growing legends, the time had come to reveal the truth. I will need to consult with Earth Command, he said carefully. This decision is beyond my authority. 3 hours later, the human delegation returned to the chamber. With them came several new figures that no one had seen before. Admiral Eunji Kang wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. General Seokjin looked like a college professor rather than a military leader. Dr. Youngsuk Lim carried a tablet and seemed more interested in taking notes than addressing the assembled representatives. The human government has reviewed your request, announced Ambassador Hyunwoo. Before we respond, Admiral Kang would like to address some misconceptions about our military organization. Admiral Kang stepped forward. She was smaller than most of the alien representatives and spoke in a calm, measured voice that carried clearly through the chamber. We understand that there has been considerable speculation about our special forces, she began. Today we would like to explain how human military structure actually works. She gestured, and the main display showed the organizational chart of human military forces. It looked surprisingly simple compared to the complex hierarchies most species used. Human special forces are not superior soldiers, she continued. They are specialists. Just as a surgeon specializes in medicine and an engineer specializes in construction, our special forces specialize in specific types of missions. General O stepped forward to elaborate. A hostage rescue team like Delta Unit, led by team leader Woo Jin Che, trains specifically for close-quarters operations in civilian environments. They are very good at that particular mission type, but they receive the same basic training as all human military personnel. Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. The Corval representative spoke up. But we have witnessed regular human forces achieve impossible results. If they are not your elite troops, how do they accomplish such things? Dr. Lim consulted her tablet before responding. This appears to be a cultural misunderstanding. What you consider impossible achievements, we consider normal military competence. Normal? The Vextari delegate's mandibles clicked rapidly. Your regular forces defeat entire pirate fleets without firing weapons. Yes, replied Dr. Lim matter-of-factly. That is basic conflict resolution. Why would we choose violence when psychological and technical solutions are more efficient? Admiral Kang activated another display showing human military training programs. Every human soldier learns tactical analysis, psychological warfare, technical systems, and adaptive problem solving. These are fundamental skills required for survival in military service. But why? Asked the Aquarian representative. Why do you train all soldiers to such a high standard? The humans exchanged glances. Dr. Lim stepped forward with the expression of someone explaining something obvious to children. Because Earth is a very dangerous place, she said simply. Our planet has been in a state of constant warfare for thousands of years. Only the most capable individuals survive long enough to reproduce. She activated a historical display showing Earth's military conflicts. The alien representative stared in horror at the endless succession of wars, battles, and violent conflicts. Every human military doctrine is based on the assumption that the enemy is intelligent, Well armed and determined to kill you, explained General O. We prepare for the worst possible scenarios because our history has taught us that the worst scenarios usually happen. Your basic training includes preparation for nuclear warfare, biological weapons, and planetary invasion, added Admiral Kang. Not because we expect to face such threats, but because our ancestors did face them and survived. The chamber was completely silent now. The alien representatives were beginning to understand the terrifying truth about human military capabilities. So your special forces began, the Corval War Chief hesitantly, are specialists who apply standard human military skills to specific mission types, finished Admiral Kang. Counter-terrorism experts focus on asymmetric threats. Deep reconnaissance teams specialize in gathering intelligence behind enemy lines. Hostage rescue units train for civilian protection scenarios. Dr. Lim pulled up psychological profiles on her display. The confusion seems to stem from different baseline assumptions. Your species evolved on relatively peaceful worlds with occasional conflicts. Humans evolved on a world where violence was constant and survival required extreme adaptability. What you consider elite military capabilities, said General O, we consider the minimum requirements for military service. Anyone who cannot meet these standards does not survive long enough to train others. The implications of this revelation struck the alien representatives like a physical blow. Humans did not have super soldiers. They were all products of evolutionary pressure that had refined their entire species into something resembling other races' elite warriors. But surely, said the chairman desperately, your special forces must have some advantages over regular troops? Admiral Kang nodded. Of course, specialization allows for focused training and equipment, but the fundamental capabilities are the same. She paused and looked around the chamber. Since there seems to be continuing confusion about this topic, we have decided to demonstrate. Demonstrate how? Asked the Vextari representative. Nervously, we will deploy our regular fleet to engage the AI threat, replied Admiral Kang. You can observe how standard human military forces handle this type of situation. The alien representatives erupted in protest. Regular forces? But this entity has destroyed everything we have sent against it. Yes, agreed Admiral Kang calmly. But you have been using conventional military thinking. This situation requires a different approach. General O stepped forward. The AI is operating according to predictable behavioral patterns. It expects organized military formations using standard tactics. We will not provide what it expects. How many ships will you send? Asked the Corval War Chief. 12 vessels under Fleet Captain Subin Park, replied Admiral Kang. Standard patrol configuration. The chamber fell silent again. 12 ships against an entity that had destroyed entire fleets. Dr. Lim looked up from her tablet. Based on our analysis, this AI was designed to counter conventional military threats. It has probably never encountered adaptive human tactical doctrine. What if you are wrong? Asked the chairman quietly. Admiral Kang considered the question seriously. Then we will adapt our approach and try something else. That is what humans do. As the human delegation prepared to leave, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. They had spent months wondering about the capabilities of human special forces. Now they knew the truth. There were no superhuman warriors in the human military, no genetically enhanced soldiers or technologically augmented fighters. Just the refined product of millions of years of evolutionary pressure and thousands of years of constant warfare. The most terrifying realization was that every human in their military was essentially what other species would consider special forces. They did not need elite units because their entire population had been naturally selected for the traits that made elite soldiers. As the human fleet departed for the galactic core, one alien observer made the final chilling assessment that would define how the galaxy viewed humanity forever after. They do not have special forces because they do not need them. They are all special forces. In the depths of space, 12 human ships moved toward an ancient evil that had